Hello and welcome back to another episode of Kaluno Gaming playing Satisfactory. And then in this episode we're going to finish off our turbo fuel build as well as fix a monumental mistake that I made on this other side for actually making the turbo fuel. So jumping right in, I went ahead and hooked up the nodes for the sulfur and coal to most of the underside train platforms. And as I'm hooking up some load balancers over here, I was just going to explain why I wasn't here last week. Last week, my entire family, including myself, ended up getting sick. So I didn't have really a voice to do the videos. And, you know, taking care of a 1-year-old who is sick definitely made it a little bit more challenging. So I wasn't able to get the video done last week, which I apologize for. But I have the video done for this week. And then I'll also have some footage that I've recorded then to be kind of ahead on videos for the next couple of videos. I'll still only release them on Mondays, only because I like to try to just do the one video a week. I don't want to start releasing a bunch of videos a week, getting people's hopes up that I can do more than that. So I'm going to just keep doing one a week and go from there. Doing the load balancing mainly was just to kind of keep the sulfur and coal as evenly distributed as possible. You can see here I end up building a more extensive coal load balancer, a 2-to-2 load balancer, and that was just so that each of these industrial storage containers down here end up with the same amount going into them. That way their one freight cart isn't overfilled and one is empty. It just kind of makes sure that I get the full benefit I can out of each industrial storage container. So real quick, for the 2-to-2 load balancer, all you need to do is have 2 splitters, 2 mergers, and connect 2 of the lines from the splitters, so 1 each, going straight, and then the other 2 just need to kind of go up across and into the other side's merger. Also, real quick, I am still trying to get to 500 subscribers, and you guys have been helping out tremendously. I actually recently just passed 200 subscribers just today, or the day that I'm recording the audio for this, which is phenomenal. You guys have been helping out so much with that. I've actually just recently received what the giveaway items are going to be for the giveaway once we hit 500 subscribers. I'll have 10 of those that I'll probably end up giving out once we hit the 500 subscriber mark. And I still need to hammer out the details on how to make sure people have the correct entries. I am open to ideas if people know of certain giveaway websites that are either free or relatively inexpensive. Go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section. That would be awesome. I'll take a look into them. And whichever one seems to be the best, come time for the giveaway, we'll go with one of those. As I said, it's nothing huge. We're still at a smaller level at the moment for YouTube. But I do like the idea of doing a giveaway every once in a while. So maybe in the future, even after the 500 subscriber mark, it might be something bigger. With all of that, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Go ahead, share the video with a friend if you think they're going to like it as well.
You've gotta know that this ain't living, but we could run.
Jumping back into the video, we're going to jump ahead a little bit here. This is the train platform at the turbo fuel station. So this is the side that's actually going to be making turbo fuel. On this left side here is where sulfur is going to come in. Sulfur is going to go into those industrial storage containers down there from these 2 containers. This middle container I may or may not use, but it's going to be a mix of coal overflow coal and overflow sulfur. So it'll smart split those. And then on these two on the right, these are also going to be used for coal. Now all of these will filter down here into these industrial storage containers, then come out the back and go into a merger line. I actually end up doubling up these mergers. These mergers then go into a splitter that go into 2 more industrial storage containers. And now the reason for this is so that I can have each industrial storage container giving out 480 sulfur or coal going into a single line, rather than the inputs are doubled, so that in hopes that I have more flowing into the system than flowing out of these storages. So it kind of bottlenecks it, but it bottlenecks it in a way that should allow for it to split nicely over here on the assembler side. Alright, so I made a monumental mistake on this side, and that was forgetting the 14 refineries for packaged water. So I have the heavy oil residue being made going into these 14 refineries, which are supposed to make diluted packaged fuel. So I have the heavy oil residue portion, but then I completely forgot about the packaged water portion. So I'm going to have to rebuild this area, kind of space out some things. I'm going to have to empty out all of these canisters, and once I get all of that done, I'll kind of jump back over here and then show you how it's turned out. Alright, so now I have 14 refineries that I just added in between these sections of refineries here. So I'll have the crude oil to heavy oil residue, so it'll be 300 crude oil to 600 heavy oil residue. The crude oil will come into this pipe back here, and then that'll go through all these refineries and then come over to the other side. And then from here, it'll have polymer resin and heavy oil residue coming out. Heavy oil residue will travel through the center here and go into these refineries that make the diluted packaged fuel. And then these 14 refineries that I just set up will come up over through this middle line, which I've reversed, and have packaged water going into the refineries for the diluted packaged fuel. Once that's done, they'll carry across to these other refineries. These refineries will unpackage the fuel and then kick the empty canisters back over this way into a storage container, and then back over through the packaged water refineries. So I apologize for getting that in the first video and forgetting to explain that you also need to have those 14 refineries as well. Hopefully, if you guys are kind of in the middle of doing one of these builds, you might have realized that. I did have one person on Reddit notice it, so just remember to get these 14 as well. Alright, so over here on the assemblers, I finally figured out how I wanted to set up the belts for this section, with having that one assembler turned 90 degrees. So over here, the sulfur and coal lines come through the refineries and then split and go down and out toward the outsides of the assemblers, which then feed into the sulfur on the bottom and coal on top. And then the other line that you see here going back to the refineries is for the actual compacted coal itself. So it kind of all fit in one kind of nice stacked up little area. I think it looks pretty good. And that all comes across from this side over here where those industrial storage containers were. And I went ahead on the back end of these industrial storage containers and doubled up the mergers and splitters, so that way there even more items are flowing into those last 2 industrial storage containers. I'll get a better view of that probably later in the video, so that way there you guys can see it. I moved the industrial storage container on the empty canister line to this side from the other side, just so it could have a little bit cleaner belting into the refineries. And I've also hooked up those refineries into the diluted packaged fuel refineries. So real quick, basically you have crude oil turning into heavy oil residue, heavy oil residue getting turned into diluted packaged fuel turning into unpackaged fuel getting turned into turbo fuel with compacted coal. Alright, so this is an overview of this area. This area is basically complete with the refineries and everything. So going over here, I've also now added in all of the piping for the pipe carrying turbo fuel over to the fuel generators. So this might be a little confusing. I'll try to explain it the best I can. Each one of these pipes can go to 37 fuel generators. So this first 4 pipes come over here and split off in different directions. One of the pipes goes to these 37 right here between these 2 foundation supports. And you can kind of see them going down in the foundation support pieces there, as well as some coming down in the middle. So the hardest one was that first section. The other ones, like this top line, come over to the 37 running across the top and the back here. So these 3 lines were a lot easier to run because it literally was the 37 from basically it was 37 on one floor. So basically there's 3 floors, 37 on the top, 37 on the middle, 37 on the bottom. It was just that first one with the 37 on 3 floors that I found splitting it with the one extra fuel generator on the one ring that has 50 instead of 49 made that a lot easier. Alright, and then over here at the train stations, I went ahead and hooked up the industrial storage containers in a similar fashion to how I was making the compacted coal, or how it unloads. I went ahead and hooked up those on both sides to look the same. And other than that, I think now it's just time to get the train rolling. So I did some tests, and I know I have to load in each station twice. So we're going to have a total of 6 stations in here. So we'll have it go from the turbo station to the coal station. And then from the coal station to the Sulphur Valley station. Alright, let's turn the autopilot on and get this train rolling. And should be rolling now. Oh, hang on. I might need to switch the stations. So I don't know what it is with the stations. For whatever reason, sometimes you need to have it go the first station, the last station, then the middle station. So I'm still learning about trains. I want to make a video on how to use trains coming up here shortly. Also, I want to make a video on how to make circles, because those are the 2 main questions I get a lot on Reddit, as well as a few questions that I've got from friends that play the game. So eventually I think I'm going to do those videos here shortly. And as you can see here, the train should be arriving here in just a second. And there it goes. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's going all the way out to the sulfur station. Let's go ahead and catch up to it. All right, and so now that we're in the train, I'll go ahead and show you guys the track that I designed for this one. So one thing that I like doing with these tracks, or some of the tracks at least, is having them follow the natural terrain of the world, if possible. So in some areas you kind of can't have that, but you'll see here once I make this turn that as it's coming down this little valley area, it tends to follow the valley where it can without trying to clip through the ground. And then from here it follows this nice little canyon. I still need to pick up that power slug. And then from here it goes up some ramps. And as it's going up these ramps, the nice thing is it does kind of slow down, but it does also have the added effect of when it goes the other way, it speeds up. So over on this side, this is where I'm mainly picking up most of my sulfur. So as you can see, I kind of kept the same theme for the belt system, where it's just a pillar with the conveyor belt on top, spaced out basically every 6 foundation pieces, some basically the maximum length of the conveyor belt. So I have some sulfur coming in from the left. I can kind of show that real quick. And then I also have some sulfur coming in from the right. So there's our sulfur. Those should be 2 completely full freight carts full of sulfur. And then we should start heading back toward the next stop. And this is still on autopilot. I haven't touched any of the controls to control this train. This is all going on autopilot. I'm basically just riding in it to make sure that it actually works. So as you can see, as we're coming back this way, we're going a lot faster now as we're going to be going up this hill. And we should also gain quite a bit of speed going down this hill as well. Once again, if you guys have made it this far into the video, I want to thank all the new subscribers. You guys are helping push me to continue making these videos, and it's because of you guys that I keep making these videos. So thank you. And once again, we're trying to get to 500 subscribers. I feel like that's a relatively easy goal with where we're at. So if you happen to know anybody that likes this type of content, likes any type of, PC video games, please feel free to share it with them. And maybe they'll like it as well, and maybe they'll subscribe, which would be awesome. Alright, now we're pulling into the coal station. So now we should grab these 2 full coal freight carts. And I'm going to actually hop out and kind of jump ahead. That way there, when we get over to the other station, we can actually see it unloading all of this stuff. Alright, and as the train comes up this hill, it should start slowing down. And it'll take just a minute here, and then we should see all 4 of these freight carts get completely unloaded into the station here. And then once the animation sequence of this is done, we should see a bunch of sulfur and a bunch of coal coming out of the outer two on either side. So the two on the left, or sorry, 4 on the left and the 4 on the right. Those 4 belts on each side. And then we should see it coming across in between the refineries on each side. So there goes through all of those belts, going into the storage containers, and coming out on the other side. Perfect. So now this will flow all the way over here to the assemblers. And it's a little bit harder to see the coal side, but if you can see the sulfur side, the coal side is a very close design to what I did with the sulfur. It's just as mirrored as I possibly could without it, going through itself. So in some areas I did have to tweak the belts just a little bit so they don't run into each other, but they, for the most part, are a mirrored version of one another. Alright, so the sulfur looks like it's just about full. Coal is full, and there's the sulfur. Alright, so now this is all ready to go once we start turning this stuff on. Which, I tried getting this video down into a 2-part episode, but they're like 2-part kind of mini build thing, but there was no way. This build is so massive that turning this thing on in the next episode, it takes time. So what we're going to end up doing is I'm going to show you a little bit more on this side here, showing this stuff filling up. This is that double merger splitter section that I was talking about. But as far as turning this thing on, we are going to do that in the next episode. Jumping ahead just a little bit, you can see here the storages have, or the train storage section has run out. But that still leaves us with quite a few stacks of coal and sulfur down in these industrial storage containers as a buffer, which is exactly what I was looking for, because the turbo line, as I nicknamed it, is already gone out to the sulfur station and is already making its way back. So I feel like the amount that's in there right now is a good amount that it should, if I was making turbo fuel right now, be enough to sustain the assemblers for the compacted coal. So real quick, the last few things that we have to do with building this entire section, we already have the line set up for the turbo fuel. We have the power lines run over here. We have the compacted coal assemblers built. We have the packaged water refineries built. We have the crude oil to heavy oil residue refineries built. We have the diluted packaged fuel refineries built. But now we need to get the crude oil and water put over. So I built this little tube system, which I kind of like. I usually don't like to clip with the foundations and rocks anywhere in the world if I don't have to. But I thought this was a nice little aesthetic build where it makes it look like we have an industrial pipe going through the rock face down here collecting water. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this section on. So that way there we have water pumping over to the turbo fuel area, which these 6 water extractors should be enough to supply enough water to all 14 of the packaged water refineries. So we'll have 2 pipes going to each side, so it'll be 2 pipes for 7 and 2 pipes for 7. So this should fill up relatively quickly. Yep, and as you can see there, it's already filling up. And then the other thing we'll need is 1 power shard. So this is the first power shard that I've ever made in my entire playthrough so far. We're going to need that for one of these oil extractors. So in total, we need 300 cubic meters of oil. So we have 2 normal nodes, or sorry, 2 impure and 1 normal, I believe, over here. So in total, we just need an extra 60 crude oil. So we're going to overclock one of these so it goes from 120 to 180 meters per minute. And it looks like we need to put the power shard in first. So put that in. And then right down here, I'll just type in 180 and then hit enter. Oh, and that's perfect. It's just 150% overclock. So one thing with doing this is you will notice that the amount of power consumption from here remains the same if it's on idle, like if it's not using any of it. So both of these are currently on 40. But if you empty this one out and then go ahead and watch how much it uses, then it does jump up quite a bit. So now it's up to 76.5 megawatts. Alright, so we have the water run, we have the crude oil run, everything's hooked up. The only thing that's not hooked up to each thing yet is the power. But as I said, this video is getting a little bit long, and we're going to have to turn the power on in the next video. Last thing I wanted to explain on this video here is these 3 oil extractors are going into different portions of that pipe, but I'll explain that a little bit more in the next one. So this is Kaluno Gaming signing off. Have a good day.